Welcome to episode 150 of the Startup Show. We are halfway through my goal to episode 300. And today we are talking to the CEO and co-founder of Kingfluencers, Christian. And we talk about influencer marketing. We talk about selling a company to Google. But we also talk about how you should listen to advice. Make sure to stay tuned for the whole episode. Welcome to episode 150 of the Startup Show. Today we are here at the offices of Kingfluencers and we are talking to Chris. Chris, welcome to the show. It's a great pleasure to have you here.
Hi, Cedric. Thanks for having me.
Chris, as usual on the show, everybody gets to introduce themselves to my audience. So maybe give us a short intro about who you are.
I'm Christian. My background is technical, so I studied computer science at ETH. I founded my first company there with some friends, and after my studies, I continued starting new companies. One
of the things that you did is Bitspin, which you exited to Google. Now, we don't want to go too much into details of this acquisition, but how is it, for many entrepreneurs who are out there, one of their big dreams is to actually sell their company once to one of the big tech companies. How was it feeling for you when you first realized, okay, like we can sell our company to Google? Mm-hmm.
It feels unnatural in the beginning, but again, on the other hand, it's not that it's like one-off, like from one day to another you sell it and then it's done, but it's a longer process. So it takes some time where you also need to talk to your colleagues or co-founders at that company for the whole process. So how is it going? Are we going to do it at all or not? Having that discussion takes some time, and the whole acquisition process also takes some time. So it's much more down to earth in the end somehow than you might imagine. It's like a huge thing from one day to another.
Yeah. I mean, like usually you read the headlines once it's already sold, so like it's probably a very different experience when you're in it. But nevertheless, then you decided to move on and you build now the next company, Kingfluencers. Before we go more into depth what Kingfluencers does, maybe give a short explanation what you feel an influencer is. There's a lot of different definitions out there. There's a lot of negative press out there of people who think of influencers in different ways. But maybe you can clarify a few things and tell us like what you understand is an influencer.
Sure. I mean, one of the questions always is like how many followers do they need to have? And this is not really the only factor that's important. I mean, yes, you need to have some followers, obviously, because you want to reach people. But what's more important also for us, what we found is that your account needs to be consistent. It needs to have a theme that you can follow, that you stick to it as an influencer, because then it gets much more predictable what content can be expected of that channel for a brand. And so having a topic where you're really interested, proficient, know a lot about, and your community likes to see more of, that's much more important than just having a lot of followers and not really sticking to any theme in your content you create.
So when you say like someone who is starting today and wants to build his online presence, what would you recommend them to do?
Find your niche, stick to it, create the content, work in a topic you're passionate about, because it takes a lot of time to build up the community, to cater to the community in a consistent and long-term way. And it's also a lot of work and for most of the influencers.
Okay, so let's talk about Kingfluencers, what you guys do here, maybe how you come up with the idea. But let's start first so everybody understand like what Kingfluencer does. What is it exactly that you do here?
Well, we are a full-service influencer marketing platform. So what that means is that our customers, which mostly are brands or marketing agencies, they come to us with the need of an influencer marketing campaign, and we help them not only finding the right influencers, but also taking care of the whole process in management of the influencers, controlling of the posts, the whole structure until the payment of influencers, where you have questions like social security and stuff like that. So we have solutions for the whole part, for the whole process.
When you look at all of your clients, what is it that usually clients are looking for?
Well, in the end, they want to reach their marketing goals. I mean, this is very different depending what client you're talking to at what point. Some of them want to have a more direct impact on the sales. Some want to have more branding campaign, for example. And then in the end, they want to see how you can achieve that with the influencers as well? And what are the important KPIs and measures to prove basically that you reach your goal?
One of the key questions that I get asked a lot, and to ask also the entrepreneurs, is, why did you start this company, and what inspired you, to open up a company within this space?
It's a little bit a longer story because we are 3 co-founders, and when we came together, there was already a little bit around. But for me personally, when I was looking for something new or a new company to start, I looked at influencer marketing. It's a very interesting field, marketing in general, basically. And influencer marketing for me is something much, much bigger behind that, because it's really a shift in how you are marketing products or services, and a much more democratic way than it used to be with channels like TV channels, media, like general media, like newspapers, where it's very centralized. But with influencer marketing, you suddenly get a lot of channels, and this is very interesting, basically, to see where this is going. And I think this will change over time much more drastically into the future. And it was one of the big motivators for me to do something there and do it properly and go head on.
When you look at, let's say, the numbers, like you see a lot of different projections in terms of how big market size can be of influencer marketing. How do you see those projections, and where do you see it going?
I mean, most estimations show growth because, the digital marketing is growing in general. So there is more happening in social media. There is less offline happening. This is very clear. And there's also a shift into, let's say, people-based marketing and social media or influencers for that part. And I think this is a very, very clear thing what's happening. But I think we still don't really know exactly what huge opportunity can be. Unlike the statistics where it's heading now, I think there's much more behind that, because there are many more people. And I think in the end, the best products get recommended by people, in the end, by friends or family. And I think there's much more like that also in the future coming. So I think this will be an even bigger market, a market shift that needs to happen or will happen in the future.
When you look at your clients, number one, what are, let's say, the most interesting projects you have done in the last few months? And where do you see the challenges when you try to convince companies that maybe influencer marketing is something they should take into their marketing mix?
We touched it before. One important question every marketer has is what is the return on investment? And we can show them some KPIs, but we also see there needs to be even more clarity on what you really want to achieve. And this is also some indication of our clients, because some of them just rely on these proxy parameters, but maybe this is not really all they want to know. This doesn't give necessarily the impact of the campaign they're running. But we used to use those proxies because they were used in other channels as well. But we have an approach, and we think into that direction that we can even better show what exactly you will get out of that, in particular for, let's say, branding or awareness campaigns, to show the impact on the return on investment of this spent budget. And this discussion is always, needs to happen, and depending on who you're talking to, this is clear or less clear. For full clients as well, need to have a clear goal right now, a really goal-oriented approach for the campaign as well. And sometimes it's not really clear what the exact goal is, and it's hard to optimize then for that.
And what are, let's say, one of the fun projects that you have executed on in the last few months?
Well, we run a lot of campaigns, and there are a lot of cool ones. One that we run, it's maybe not the last couple of months, but that really stuck in my mind is one with Evian. And they really understand how influencer marketing is one part of a bigger mix of activities you're doing. There they had the influencer marketing campaign with us. It was a combination as well with a testimonial campaign with another athlete, as well as they ran TV campaigns and also banners offline. Seeing that happening together in that mix is really fun, because those activities strengthen each other. So the influencer marketing campaign has an impact on the other activities and vice versa. And this is the best you can get basically in a marketing mix.
So when you look at, let's say, the company Kingfluencer, what stage of development are you? Where are you currently standing in terms of execution, and what are the plans ahead of you?
Well, we are operating since about 2 years on a profitable basis, and we are now investing also more into the technology. So really taking all those learnings we made, we see all the processes, how those campaigns run, how the market is changing, and we are taking that know-how and want to invest even more into building out the processes and technologies needed to run scalable campaigns with a high quality output also in the future.
One of the questions that I got also while we were doing our research was about your expansion into countries, let's say in the German-speaking area, but also, let's say, worldwide. Do you have any thoughts on that?
There's a lot of competition out there. Influencer marketing, you can start with that very easily and quickly. But what we see is that there is a need for more professionalization on all areas of the process, and like how you select influencers, how you treat them, how you work with them, how the whole process works. And this is also, let's say, an international need. And what we see there's also still a lack of really technology and efficient, scalable methods to scale campaigns in a much, much bigger way, and also how they work with clients. And we think we have an approach that we're running with our clients and build out the technology right now to streamline those processes in a way that we don't see happening in other countries either. And I think with that approach, we want to grow also internationally and actually have an advantage over competition there.
How do you see the local ecosystem specifically now when you mentioned about developers develop something technological? Do you feel finding talent and hiring them here in Zurich is something that is a challenge or rather easy?
I think hiring is always a challenge.
Yeah.
It should be as well. I mean, if it would be easy to find the best people, everybody else could do it. I mean, we are still very small compared to bigger companies, and for that part, you find people. You find really good people, and you have also something to offer compared to bigger companies. Because you're small, you can have, as a team member, a huge impact on basically every part of the business. And this is a huge opportunity for everybody that joins. And actually, motivator is also something we test and talk about in the interviews. Because if you don't like that, you don't want that, have that impact, it's maybe not a good fit. Yes. And finding those people, it's hard, in particular in the engineering part, but you find them. And it gets very clear very quickly if it's a fit or not. And this also helps with recruiting.
Do you have any practical tips for aspiring entrepreneurs who are looking for the developers? Like what you ask during the interview?
You find out very quickly if they're capable technically. Yeah. And this is not the biggest issue usually nowadays in most technology companies even. You can test that part easily, but what you need to look for is more things like perseverance, people that actually like change and want to contribute in the whole business. And I mean, there are interview questions for that to test that, but definitely check that. And I think this is more important, and the willingness to learn and grow as a person, as well as technically, obviously. Yeah, but the technical part usually is not that hard to test or that important in the end, because you can learn everything.
Now, when you look at, let's say, the local ecosystem here in Zurich, and maybe even in Switzerland, how do you perceive the local ecosystem? Do you feel like, you get the support that you need, also in terms of funding?
An advantage of Switzerland is it's very small. People are very close. So most of the startup scene happens in Zurich. And even if it's in Bern, you are there very quickly, you find people there. You can talk to them. Everybody knows someone that knows someone. Yes. And basically, with one touch, you can get an introduction. But people are also very approachable. So all the startups and even corporates, if you need as a client, you can basically ask them, and they're very open for questions or meeting up even other entrepreneurs that have done it, that already run a bigger company. And this is really cool.
If you remember back, how did you get your first paying client for Kingfluencers?
Yeah, and it came from our network of existing clients or contacts.
Yeah. Did you have to convince them specifically, or they?
No. It was, a couple of years ago, we were basically the only ones offering influencer marketing, and they were coming to us.
Okay.
Basically.
How do you foster a positive company culture?
In the end, what's important for me is showing up. I mean, there are always rough and tough patches in development of the company. There's always change, but in the end, it's showing up and trying to fix it or improve it and going home, but next day coming back and finding solutions. That's always a good approach.
How do you achieve and maintain a balanced life?
It's hard, but what I found works for me personally very well is that I have routines and that I schedule certain time slots fixed into the week. So I actually do the things like fitness or family or friends. So I actually do that, and maybe getting back to work after that, having a fixed time slot always helps to really block off the time.
What traits do you look for when you hire someone?
Yeah, we touched it a little bit. Perseverance is, I think, important. Certain grit and drive. You want to have people that pull questions out of you and answers out of you, because you don't want to micromanage the people at that stage, because it's just not feasible, because you would do that all day. So you need people that are self-starters, that bring their full self in, are reflective and learn and grow personally, as well as technically as well. And
last one, what's important to you in an investor?
That they understand what we do, that they understand the challenges and the big opportunity in particular as well. And in the end, I obviously believe in us and our team, and that we will win.
The last part is fully dedicated that you can give us some insights and give advice, leave your legacy in the future on YouTube and Facebook, so you can give us some advice on entrepreneurship or something where you feel you have the audacity to give some advice.
I'm always very skeptical with advice. So I actually gave a talk once about advice and why not to take it. So take everything with a little bit of a grain of salt from me or from everybody you hear, because there's always conflicting advice. So take the advice, but not as an advice, but as an input and one input point. And in the end, you have to make your own decisions and just make a decision. This is, I think, a very important one. And if it's wrong or not, you don't know. So decide basically with the best intent, with the know-how you have now. And if it turns out to be wrong, try to revert it or change it and learn from it, and then move forward. Right. That's, I think, the best.
And also, there are very few people in the world that really know the full context of your life to give you really sophisticated advice.
Yes, I think. I mean,
maybe your spouse or your parents.
Yeah. I mean, advice is very specific. Like in particular, very specific advice is very hard, because nobody has the full picture of you as a person, what's best for you and the company and the very specific situation you are in. So we always, like, if you just ask enough people, you will always get conflicting advice. So in the end, you have to decide either way yourself, like what's the best approach.
Good, Christian. Thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody who stayed all the way till the end of this video. Make sure to stay tuned a few more seconds so you'll see who is up next week. And I'm excited for the next 150 episodes, and have a great day.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sasha. This is Herman. We are co-founder and managing partner of Equity Pitcher.
And make sure you tune in next week, where we talk about venture capital startups, and how you start your own startup.
Looking forward to see you there.
Bye.
And don't forget to subscribe to the channel on YouTube and Facebook.